can begin. Okay, hello everyone. We're calling our all-church meeting into session at this point. My name's Dave Hostler. I'm responsible for taking Don Fitzke's parking spot today. So Josh, our moderator, Josh Bayshore-Sterry, would be running or conducting this meeting. He had a family obligation and a last-minute time change, so our bylaws permit the board chair to step in for the moderator, which is what I'm doing. So we're calling this session of the all-church meeting today to do one thing. There's no handout agenda. It is to do one thing, and that is to give final approval for the purchase of the house that is being used today and hopefully long into the future as a refugee house for our refugee resettlement program. We had a meeting back in July where we presented conceptually. Can you see me now? We had a meeting back on July 28 where we conceptually put forward this idea of purchasing this house. The board had put forward this, listened to this presentation from the outreach team and had presented it to the congregation, and the congregation gave at that point unanimous approval. The motion at that point, or the action that we were charged with, was the following: to support the church board, to support the Lancaster Church of the Brethren's ministry to refugee families. The church board recommends that the all-church meeting authorize the board to prepare a purchase house at 120 North Mulberry Street, Lancaster, at an approximate cost of $310,000. The funds for this purchase would come from some combination of the Outreach Endowment Fund and the Teresa J. Herr Endowment for Refugee Resettlement. After doing due diligence in matters such as an appraisal and home inspection and completing plans for the purchase and management of the property, a final proposal will be brought to a future all-church meeting for action, and that was approved. And that's what we're doing today. The work has been done by the team. They have presented it to the church board. Church board unanimously presents it and brings it here to this meeting. So it is an item for action that is before us. It is ready for a vote, and we are going to hear the actual proposal from John Byers, who has been working on this, and then take any questions, at which point then we will vote. The only contingency that remains in the sale and purchase agreement that we've signed and made a deposit on is the action of this meeting here today. So this is the final step. John?
Thank you, Dave. Is this on? Oh. It is on now? Cool, okay. The proposal is to purchase 120 North Mulberry Street, Lancaster, PA, for use on a refugee resettlement ministry. The price of the house is $300,000 plus closing costs. So a lot of this information has been in the e-blast, but just to get us all on the same page, I'm going to kind of review some of it that has been previously published. The house details: the house is a 3-story bath and a half, 4-bedroom home with 1,800 square feet of living area located on North Mulberry Street. It is directly across the street from Robert Fulton Elementary School, which makes it convenient for the small children. It also has a living room, dining room, and kitchen with a refrigerator, garbage disposal, dishwasher, washer, and dryer. The heating and air conditioning, although the church has supplied several window units. There are homes only on one side of the street, which makes parking typically more available. The appraised value of the house is $290,000. The asking price was $310,000, and we settled on a purchase price of $300,000 with the church paying the 2% transfer tax. We had an inspection done, and all issues were addressed. The one issue that did come up the inspection is that the roof is coming to the end of its service life, so in the next couple of years we'll have to replace a roof. But by that time our restricted account for the property should be sufficient to cover the roof. The inspector who did inspect the house said that verbally that it was in good condition. To purchase the house, we'll take 1/3 of the funds needed from the Teresa J. Herr Endowment for Refugee Resettlement Fund, and 2/3 of the amount needed from the Outreach Endowment Fund. House management was a question that came up at the last meeting. We've established a committee of 4 people to manage the house. Renee Snyder with her real estate background, Dave Byers with his property background, Joe Graff with his financial background in the church, and I'm the liaison from the Refugee Resettlement Committee. Ongoing house expenses, the rent collected from our refugee tenants will cover the expenses of the house plus some. The expenses include things like property taxes, insurance, water and sewer, trash, maintenance, and licensing. The tenants are responsible for electric and gas. As far as church accounting goes, we plan to establish a dedicated restricted account where the rents will go in and the expenses will come out of that account. In time, it is expected that that account will increase in value, and once it reaches $20,000, we will use the amounts over that then for other outreach purposes of the church. But that $20,000 will be kind of a reserve to cover anything really unexpected that would happen. The value of the property will be listed as an investment asset of the church in the same manner as the funds invested with financial institutions are currently. So that's a lot of the proposal. I also have some guidelines for the use of the house. The purpose, as we know, of the house is to provide safe housing for arriving refugees until they are ready to secure suitable housing based on their own resources. And I kind of modified that a little bit to a goal. It is hoped that with the assistance of the welcoming team, most refugee families will be able to move to new housing within 1 to 2.5 years. During the time in the house, the welcome team will work with them too, and I listed some of the things we plan to get accomplished while we're working directly with them in that intense time. Find jobs, get driver's licenses, enroll children in school, purchase clothes, learn English, get bank accounts, obtain a car, build a credit history, build some financial reserves, save for a security deposit for a new apartment, and become acquainted with American customs. So that's why it takes a little while to get all that accomplished. The rent that we charge would be a competitive rent based on the size of the family and their space requirements. As far as utilities, the church will pay the water, sewer, and trash for the property. The refugees will be responsible for the electric and gas. The lease, the refugees will sign a lease with the church, and Renee has already written a lease for us. It's very similar to every lease that every other renter signs. Church accounting, the church will have the restricted account. House maintenance, there will be a contact person, and Dave Byers has volunteered to be that contact person for the refugees to call if maintenance is needed. And depending upon the need, the maintenance will either be done by the welcome team or contracted to an outside entity. Insurance, the church will pay for property and liability insurance, and we've received quotes for that. And the refugees will pay for renter's insurance. And house inspection, someone from the welcome team will check monthly with the residents on any problems with the house to make sure the house is being maintained properly. So that's my formal spiel. In the time since our last meeting, we've only really received one question, and it goes a little bit like, why do we spend so much money on refugees when there's so much other need in Lancaster County and so much other homelessness in Lancaster County? And one of the unfortunate parts of asking me that question beforehand is that I have a prepared answer. So the first point I'd like to make on that is there's no lack of need anywhere in this world, and these refugees are now at our doorstep in Lancaster. We at the Lancaster Church of the Brethren cannot solve all the injustices in the world or meet every need, but we are called to do what we can where we can. My first point is I would like to make sure that, the first point I would like to make is that this house is not a gift to the refugees. It is a change of investment from Wall Street type investments to an investment in a real estate property, which will directly help our refugee ministry. At some point, this house might be sold. Unless real estate is a bad investment, it will return more than we paid. Also, the rent that the refugees pay will pay the expenses of the house. Huh. Yeah, okay, and my final point is my final point I would like to make is that God has called us to minister to all those in need in this world. When God created the earth, it was without boundary lines. While our refugee brothers and sisters started their lives in a different place, they are now among us and need our help. We should not say that we need to do more here for native-born Americans as an excuse for not to help someone when that opportunity presents itself. And then I have a little nuts and bolts thing here. I'm also the outreach team leader, so this is a good time to quickly review how the Lancaster Church of the Brethren does help right here in Lancaster. Through our church budget this year, we will contribute $22,700 to specific causes in Lancaster County that feed, clothe, and shelter the homeless and poor. This money goes to the Lancaster County Food Hub, Bridge of Hope, Alpha and Omega Community Center, Tenfold, Love Inc., Water Street Rescue Mission, Feed the Hungry, and Habitat for Humanity. Just as a side note, our regular church budget does not have a line item for refugee resettlement. To date, the money used for refugee assistance has been funded entirely by specific generous contributions from church members. So anyway, hopefully that is enough on that particular question. Now, more questions.
Are there other questions?
Go. I can indeed. Okay. The question is, I went through quickly what the church will be paying, what the refugees will be paying. Could I review that again? And yes. Currently, our refugees pay a rent of $1,975 a month, which is roughly $23,000 a year. They pay their electric and gas. The church would pay trash, water, and sewer. We pay the taxes. Yeah, we would own the property. We pay property tax, a rental license, water and sewer and trash, insurance, all those household expenses except water and electric. No, gas and electric. They're responsible for that. Those expenses in 2023 for that house added up to about $7,000. So you can see if that situation were to continue, there's quite a bit of extra money coming in. I would not, expenses go up, so we already know our insurance cost is going up. So even say expenses go from $7,000 to $9,000, we still have income from the tenants to pay for the expenses. I will also say that our current family is 8 people with 2 wage earners and a need for a lot of space. If we were to get a smaller family in there that would not need as much space, we would charge a competitive rent based on the house size they would need. But it's important, I think, in the refugee resettlement to charge rent because we want to teach them American customs and we have to pay for our housing. And we don't want to make this a place where it's unaffordable to move anyplace else. We want to bring them into the real world. So they're responsible for rent.
Yeah, just a quick question. Do we have a, I don't know, a team set up or help for like keeping them employed? I know that as refugees, they may have a little bit more difficulty, you know, given our social climate, and there's been a lot of talk about refugees. And I was thinking maybe they might need a little bit more help, you know, with the employment angle and how to deal with that.
Yes. Through Church World Service, they help us with employment. We do have a refugee resettlement team of, I think it's 10 people, 12 people. And we do help them try to find jobs. But Church World Service so far has been very good in finding employment for refugees. And I'll say our current Afghan family is well employed. I mean, they do have really good jobs. And I'm hoping as we bring future families in, they would continue to have contacts. I mean, we bring these families in, but it's not like once they leave the nest, we no longer see them anymore. We maintain contact with them, and they try to help each other as well. But yes, Church World Service does do a good job on employment.
Other question?
Some of the people might not understand where this money is coming from. I mean, we know from where we're getting it out of, but some people might not understand them. And there is a possibility that when they come, they won't be employed if they don't understand any English for a while.
Yeah, not sure if, the money is coming from the endowments funds we have right now. John Herr established the Refugee Resettlement Endowment Fund. Okay, in the Refugee Resettlement Fund, we have about 120.
More than 120.
$120,000. That's the Herr Fund, yes. And in the General Outreach Endowment Fund, we have about $820,000. So with this expense, there will be some money left in the Herr Fund, as well as over $600,000 left in the other outreach fund.
Other question? Randy? Yeah, it's 1/3. Randy's question was, what's coming from which fund? 1/3, meaning approximately 100, is coming out of the refugee endowment, and 2/3, approximately 200, coming from the outreach. And we'll carry that as an investment, so some years, if a decade or more from now this unwinds and we sell the property, then 2/3 would return to the outreach endowment and 1/3 would return to the refugee. Are you ready to vote? Well, we can bring the question then, and the proposal was, as John stated, to proceed with the acquisition. And we're just going to do a show of hands. All in favor say, or raise their hand, please. Thank you. And an opportunity, if there is an opposition, please raise your hand. We have 2 opposed. So the motion will carry, and we would then proceed with the acquisition. I have no song. I have no song to sing, but a big thank you to all those who have worked hard and will continue to work hard on this particular project.